Hello, and welcome back to Not Here to Fix You, the podcast where we talk about food, feelings, emotion, behavior change, and everything in between. I'm your co host, Amanda, a food behavior stability strategist, and with me today is Laziena, my other co host. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Laziena. I am your relationship repair companion. I really thrive and love helping, or not just helping, but being a part of the journey of repairing our relationship with not only ourselves, but the people that we love and care about, and sometimes our coworkers.
Exactly. Oh, and if you did listen to our previous episode, we teased you guys a little bit with the changes that are going to be happening this season. And I'm not going to say what they are. Go back and listen to that episode if you
That's
haven't.
right. Go do your homework.
Yeah, exactly. But I also wanted to say, I don't know if you've noticed another change, but for long-time listeners, you might have noticed that I have actually changed my role. So I used to do, I'm not used to, but my former role was a food guilt recovery coach and food freedom coach. But now I've changed it to what I said at the beginning, which was a food behavior stability strategist. And the reason for that is I teased a little bit in one of the episodes last season that I wanted to close the gap between uh, the shame and guilt that women feel when they actually have an episode with food that they weren't too proud of. And I'm happy to say that I have found a way to do that. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, this season I'm gonna probably talk a little bit more about that journey in our episodes, but I am so excited with the new title, and not because I'm like one for titles, but for the longest time, I didn't like the guilt recovery coach in my title. I just didn't know, what better way to like explain myself to people. But now I'm super happy because what I'm dealing with was essentially, it was and still is a lot of behavior change, but I haven't given up on food freedom. Like, I still teach that to women. I still believe it. I still practice it. But now what I do is essentially help them to retrain their behavior around food so that they can trust themselves to make good decisions without the shame, guilt, and the whole set of food rules that come with it. So that's a change that I wanted to talk about. But let's carry on with our conversation on not having things descend into chaos. So, Lazina, what do you think happens when you go through that shame and guilt and there's that 48-hour window that we all have? Can you share a little bit of what that looks like?
When it comes to that 48 hour, that 24 to 48-hour window, I think that's when shame is really inside of us, and we make a lot of decisions based on that shame, and that's how we continue from that space. So typically for me, whenever something has happened where I've sort of slipped, or um I mean, when I say slip, whatever the experience is, I'm gonna say I'm not proud of it, or something happened that threw me off track. My go-to is always the shame. I feel icky. I don't like it. I don't like how I feel. I'm riddled with punishing myself. I tend to have a lot of that negative self-talk in my head. The one I told you so. Why did you do this again? How could you do this? You know better. The you know better and you didn't do better part. Though those words kind of stick because those are the words older people or family members have used. So we're so used to that's like in there and it's so ingrained for so long. I'm in my like mid 40s now, so I've had those words in there for a long time, just beating myself up, and it all comes from me not feeling not good enough. And so when I don't not present with myself or aware, that's what happens. My heart is hurting. I really really just want to feel like compassion and love, and someone to tell me like it's okay, you can make mistakes, you can mess up, it doesn't mean that you're not lovable. Because I have this core belief, right, that when things get hard, people leave. So for me, when in relationships, that 48 hours after something has happened, I want to fix it. I want to over explain. I want to say, but that's not what happened. Can you see it differently? Like, can you please see that I wasn't trying to hurt you, or what? I understand that it did, and I want to take accountability for it. I want to make it better. It's not saying that it means that I hate you and it means that I no longer want to be in a connection, you know. So that's how that shows up. That's what happens in that 48 hours when it comes to shame. It just sinks me. It'll like really cut at
Mhm.
all of the things that I blame other people for, or I judge other people, and I'm like, oh well, I'm the hypocrite because I, you know, that self-talk just goes on and on. Yeah. What about for you?
For me, yeah, it really depends on the situation, like you said. So I could go either into shame or guilt. Like if I want to say, and perpetrator is not the right word, but just to explain it, like if I'm the one who caused it, I'm sitting with a whole lot of guilt. So I'm looking at, what did I do? What could I have done better? Like, was there a better way that I could have shared what I wanted to say? How bad have I made that other person feel like that? And then the shame kicks in. That's also eating me up a bit. So, and if it's just shame, if I'm just sitting in shame, I think the number one thing that comes to me is like, is this person, gonna not just think badly of me, but are they just not gonna want to have anything to do with me after this point? Like, how bad was that episode? Where are they gonna want to talk to me again at some point, or is this the end of the road? And of course, this is very, very, what's that term? Like, this is super black and white thinking where I've gone on to the the other
Yeah.
end of the spectrum. But that's generally not what happens. I'm just trying to show the phases of what could happen when it comes to
Yeah.
people and relationships. But when it comes to food, for me, the experience has primarily been one of two things. So for me, when I was a spiral, I would either escalate my behavior or I would, do the whole restart thing. So if I was in escalation mode, what this looked like for me was essentially, now I've already used food to like soothe myself and used it to regulate my emotions because I just never wanted to have negative emotions. Like I just always wanted to feel good or neutral. So that means that I'm just gonna go on an episode where I just not just treat myself as something, I'm just going to make it like the main event. Like every day, I'm going to pick something that's going to be my
Hmm.
go to, and it's going to make me feel really good about myself, especially if that shame or that guilt on the situation comes up. I'm going to use that, and that's going to make me feel better. At least that's what I thought, right? And when I was eating it, I would say, yes, I'm feeling so much better. But what happens was afterwards, that's when I would realize what I've done. And then the shame and guilt came up because I've actually participated in that behavior, and food no longer became something that was a good experience for me. So I can still recall doing this with a pizza because I love pizza. And I remember like when I eat pizza, when I'm doing it from a place of joy, I'm happy, I'm enjoying it, but it's not the main event for me. Like I still love pizza, but it's not the main event. It's also what I'm experiencing in my environment, what's happening, what conversations we're having. That's what I focus on. But when it was just me using food, it was literally me just being in that space and just escalating my behavior because I didn't want to deal with the negative emotions. So that food was kind of pushing down that shame and guilt. After I consumed the food, then the shame and guilt came back in. Okay,
Hmm.
so that was when I escalated. But what happened was when I did restart, it was like every day I would say, okay, I'm going to do better. Yesterday was yesterday. Today is a new day. I'm going to start again and I'm going to start again. And then I would keep saying, I'm going to restart. But even though it felt good to restart, I can tell you restarting a couple of times feels good. But by the time you hit your 10th episode, it's not fun anymore.
Right.
It's like I'm not restarting anymore. I'm just repeating behavior. I'm not restarting anything. It's what I'm telling
Yeah.
myself. It's the story I'm telling myself, but I'm not doing any restart. It's just repetition at this point. So that's what came up for me for food. Do you have any experiences that you want to share about food?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to food, right? So let's say, and I have many examples, so I'm trying to think of which one to go with, right? But you know, in any situation where it comes to eating, okay, like I went to the doctor and I'm like, man, I put on some weight, da da da. I don't understand why I willingly participate in all of this, right? So it's like I go into like, well, you know better. You even on a podcast talking about this, what happened, what's going on, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna shame, and that's that, like, you know, I'm sitting in it, and it's really just the disappointment, right? And so that can go into the afternoon of like, okay, well, you know what, since I'm already miserable, I might as well just enjoy some ice cream. Since I'm already miserable, I might as well get the guava and cheese pastry that I like. I'm gonna have that random crap that I don't like, you know? And but I mean I have to be careful because that can last for 4 days. And so in those moments, that's when I'm making decisions. Like, let's say I'm upset because I felt rejected, right? And I'm like sitting in my, but I just happened to have planned ahead that I was going to go shopping that day. And so I'm going to go shopping and I feel rejected. Now, nothing in the store is going to make me feel better. So then I'm going to go and I'm going to drive. I'm like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to go get a burger and fries. I'm gonna get ice cream with it. I'm just gonna go the whole shebang, and I'm gonna stop at the gas station. I'm gonna get cookies, and I'm just gonna like veg. It's okay. Maybe I need a vegging day, but then
Yeah.
that continues the next day. And then it continues the next day. And I am deep now within even more shame. And so what ends up, I mean, what I like to, I start noticing it. And I think, and I told you about this, right? After the fourth day, my body starts rebelling. It's like, okay, now, what are you doing? We're not going to be able to do this. So no matter what, I am forced to sit with whatever it is. So if it's rejection, I need to at least, I feel like that has to be acknowledged. If I don't acknowledge it, I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to think better. I'm going to, all of the spiritual and affirmative things that we need to say to ourselves. I can do that. But if I don't deal with that rejection, none of it is going to work because I just need to make sure that I acknowledge that in that moment, maybe I wanted to feel loved and I didn't feel loved, and that has affected me. So I do need to go and journal because or have a safe space to talk about it or get it out, because if I don't, I make a decision and I reinforce that decision later on. So okay, that person rejected me, so I'm not going to put myself in that position anymore. I'm not allowing this in my life, I'm not allowing that in my life, and I'm not allowing those things from that shame and from that protection, instead of going inwards and saying, well, that was that experience, whatever that rejection was. It's not internally to me because I accept myself. I love myself. And then that is where I do my reparenting, because ultimately that feeling is coming from an unmet need and that person doesn't have the capacity to meet that need. I need to give that to myself. And I should have given that to myself in the first place. I could also start going down that route, but then I need to practice forgiveness because I'm holding on to whatever that person did. And then it's really me holding on to wanting the love from my dad or my mom or someone. And so just being able to reparent that, it helps to restart or to resume. It helps to move things forward. I don't have to stay stuck in there. But during that, now I know that I had to be able to go through those experiences and try differently, because not every time it worked. And not every time it is going to work, because things are going to come into our lives that's going to be like, holy crap, I didn't know I needed that lesson. And then we're going to escalate again. And sometimes for me, in different environments, I can't help where I go. I need to go there. So I know that I need to build it up within myself to feel safe here. So wherever I am, that is not affecting me. But that's not human. That's what, in theory, that's what we want. But then to live in the everyday life, people are going to say things in defensiveness, and our nervous system is going to react to that. My nervous system is going to react to that. So if I allow myself to stay in that escalation window and not take other
Mm.
steps to go into doing it differently or take the action, well, necessarily, I guess the word should be integration, I'm not doing myself any justice, because that escalation window create resentment to other people. It creates judgment, it creates separation, and it's really a disconnection from myself, because I'm putting my worth and my value in the hands of someone else, and now I am now responsible for it. Is not nobody else. I'm my actions is what makes me responsible. So I can make responsible choices, or I can make responsible protections, right? And so that is kind
Yeah.
of a little bit of how that shows up for me.
Yeah, and that's a great that I love the examples because it's true what you said. You said this like the same. That's what I said. The pattern is you either escalate or there's the restart. But what I took from what you said was that you need to really sit with yourself and do that self repair and not uh self repair or reparenting before you can restart, because that's where I don't want to say the magic happens, but yeah, essentially that's what makes the repair successful. Because otherwise, it would be like what I did, where I would just say it as a phrase, like I'm gonna restart. But nothing's changing because I haven't really seen the root cause of why I'm actually putting myself through that behavior, even though I am fully aware that it's bad. You knew that it was bad as well, but you just keep repeating it. So until you actually do the self repair or the reparenting, that's when you can do the restart. And it won't be perfect, but at least it will be better than before. And
Yeah.
I think also a good point that you made was with the 24-hour to 48-hour gap, it's really about the nervous system, because I think what happens is, and this is for food and even relationships, right? When you are under stress, you're not thinking correctly. Like you can't, because you're so dysregulated, your nervous system is in hyperdrive. Oh, yeah, want to say
Hmm.
that word. It's in hyperdrive, and then you have no idea what you are actually doing because you're no longer present. You're in survival mode. You're not feeling comfortable with anything that's happening. You're just trying to survive. You're just trying to get by in the situation. You are not
Hmm.
making good decisions because you're emotionally so rapid. So I think with the 48 24-hour gap, you really need to pay attention to your nervous system. At least for food, I think you need to like literally find ways to calm your nervous system that isn't reliant on food. And I know you'll talk about how you can do that in the context of relationships, but with food, like I remember vaguely like when you told me there was something that happened, and I won't share the incident because that's personal, but I literally told you, let's find alternate ways of, getting through this. Like you don't want to use food. You told me that yourself. I didn't want you to use food. So I said, Lazina, what other ways can you find to decompress instead of using food? And then we sat through it and worked out a couple of exercises. And then I remember you said one of the things you could do is journal. So we tried journaling, and then you tried meditating, and then you tried other things, or just going for a walk with your daughter. And that really helped to regulate your nervous system. And then by the end of it, you weren't thinking of reaching for the cookie or the ice cream and, having an escalation episode with it. It was just, if you reached for it, you were reaching for it because you wanted to experience
I just want ice cream.
food. Yeah, it was just yummy and you wanted to eat it. It wasn't like, oh, I need this to regulate myself. So, how does it show up in the context of relationships? Like, do you have any examples of how you can
Yeah.
regulate your nervous system before you like go into that full blown mode with relationships?
Yeah, there's so many different ways when it comes to relationship and regulate. I want to first say nervous system regulation is incredibly important. We didn't know that. Like literally our nervous system learned safety with from the time we were born. We were disconnected
Yeah.
from our safety, right? So there's somewhere in a moment where some like if I needed to feel important and I overheard a conversation that made me feel not important by a family member that I loved and care about, my heart dropped. So that's my inner child feeling not good enough. But that nervous system is what dropped. So in a relationship, someone's tone can carry that same effect. So it's up to me to reparent that part in myself so that I don't take that tone to mean that way. Just know that, okay, that's that person's tone. That's who they are and that's what they're saying. It's also important for that person to also recognize that their tone is called, it's not okay too, like it may not be all right. But again, in relate to your point, when it comes to relationship, to when I'm in an argument with someone, I feel safe enough that I can get through the argument. We just need to get through the hard moments. We're going to hear things about each other that we don't like. We're going to hear that this is how I behave, this is how you behave. We're going to hear blame language. A lot of oftentimes when it comes to arguments with someone or disconnection with someone, someone wants to feel heard or someone wants to be right. So in that situation, which of that is more important? For me, the person is more important. So I don't want to be right. I want them to have the space for what they need. So I will allow that space to happen so that that safety can be created. But at the same time, if that's not going to work, I need to be able to healthily say, I care about you and I want to talk about this later when we're both more regulated. But right now, I need to take some time so that I can figure out what it is that I need and how I need to feel supported. And I really appreciate, and I'm thankful, and I appreciate that you're going to give me that space to take care of myself while I come back. And it's very important to say when I come back, because if we don't do that, what ends up happening is two people argue, they say things that hurt each other, the other person feels ashamed for what they say, and then they're like, oh well, this is not going to work anymore because I've done this and this and this. But instead of saying, but not knowing that the opportunity to repair is there, we end up pulling away. So I've been on both sides of that, where I'm like, okay, I argued, I don't like how I behave, great, I ruined this connection, now it's not going to work, so I'm just going to pull away, and that's it. And then I end up like, it's what, ghosting or just avoidant. That's where the avoidant behavior comes in, or whatever that individual's experience is. So for me, in the past, I would get mad, I would attack, and I would blame, but internally, that's not what I'm feeling. Internally, I'm saying, well, if you didn't do that, then I wouldn't have done this. But that's me still needing to be right. So if I need to be right so much that it's risking this relationship, I need to also understand that I can take that to my journal. I could take it to a safe space. I could kick rocks, whatever it is I need to get that out, because that person isn't really the reason. It's me. My nervous system is remembering a time when I didn't feel important, or a time when I felt blamed, or a time where I felt judged, or a time where I felt not good enough. And so that really is the reparenting process, is going back and remembering. And I know there's different techniques. Some people tap. There's other modalities when it comes to the nervous system regulation. What works for me is when my thoughts and my heart is in alignment, and so I can give my body that experience of comfort. When I know, okay, I'm feeling rejected, I need to feel accepted. So I need to go to my little girl and comfort her from that space, and that's doing it in a loving way that's very nurturing to me. That is a process that resets, right? It resets me, it resets my nervous system. I'm able to communicate with that person better. And then I can go back to them and say, when we were communicating, and I heard these words that sounded like they were blaming to me, that's when my nervous system got tied up. So now I can hear the blame, and I can hear what they have to say, and we can have an opportunity to be in better connection than to be disconnected, or that's it, the relationship is ruined. Then I'm spending like 6 years trying to forgive myself because I'm the one responsible for that relationship, because gosh, we'd sure love to shame and spiral, I mean, go into chaos, descend into chaos for our own selves.
I love the tips you shared for the like regulating the nervous system. But like for me, I feel like it's always one of the things I've noticed is when I'm regulated, it's when I feel calm. But mostly that's when I'm like, you know what, I can and of course this is in the context of relationships. But if when I'm calm, that's when I can literally put my ego to the side and look at things and be like, okay, so what was my behavior like? What did I say?
Oh yes.
What was that person? What was that person's behavior like? What did they say? So I am literally, I can only do this in a space of calm. And I know it takes practice to do this when you are, you know, at someone else's neck and they are at your neck. It's so difficult to like break that pattern in the moment. But that's why you have to practice it when you are actually regulated. And that is the reason Lazina said you need to come back to the conversation and have those difficult conversations when you both have the space for it. And I think same with food. Like if you are already in an escalation episode and you're going from the space of guilt and shame, you cannot repair or restart or stop or change the behavior then. You need to get back to being regulated. So you need to start saying, I want to have a different relationship with a person or with food, but only when you're calm, because that's when you can literally look at your behavior and see how you are enabling your own patterns.
Mhm.
Because again, you don't control, in the context of relationships, you don't control the other person's behavior. And in the context of food, you're the only one who can control your own behavior. Food is not the problem. Your behavior is. I say this very often, and it's not to offend, but it's literally because we all need to take accountability for our behavior, especially when it comes to food and also relationships. You need to approach this from a place of calm. And when you have nervous system regulation, that's when you can start with your repair or restart or whatever it is that you want to do. But if you do it from a place of where you're dysregulated, you can't really do it because, like I said, you're not thinking straight. So everything's gonna go haywire. You're not thriving, you're surviving. So don't, it's a disadvantage to put so many expectations on yourself when you're going through episodes like that in your life. And you're
Yeah.
gonna come up short. I mean, I'm just gonna say that.
Just human.
It's human because you're human. You're gonna come up short, especially in the hard seasons. Like life gets messy and you don't have to be perfect. I mean, we're not even perfect in the good seasons, but the point is you need to take some steps and like Laziena said, take action, integration. That's what you want. You don't just want the awareness like we talked about. You don't just want to say, oh, I know my pattern. You want to actually be able to change it. And you can only do that when you have regulated yourself. So I want to ask, what does I want to explore what repair looks like instead of punishing ourselves. And you
Okay.
can go first with how will that look?
Yeah. Okay. Punishing. Okay. I have a few things that I want to touch on based on what you shared. And then I'm gonna
Okay.
go back to the question, but I would like you to hold me accountable. If I go off a little bit off the side. So one of the things I want to say in that space of the escalation, right, that you were talking about, where you want to take a look at your behavior too. There's this book that I read called The Empowerment Dynamic, and that's something that I practice in that space as well. So it's the victim triangle and like learning about where I am on that victim triangle, who am I persecuting and who am I looking to rescue me, because then I can change that and become the creator of the experience. And the people who I'm looking to rescue me, I can look at them as my supporters, and the people who I feel are the ones that are my persecutors that I'm blaming, that could be the challenge. So if I look at it in a different perspective, then I can really truly see, how am I responsible? What is my responsibility in this situation? How did I show up? And most of the time, that alone is a release, because I'm able to see, okay, I'm really truly being the victim of this right now. And I can, even if it's wrong, or even if that person has responsibility, it is still up to me to own my parts in it. And sometimes it really can be in my reaction. Like if someone says something to me and I'm like, okay, well, okay, and then I start to get angry. Well, then my anger also plays a part in it, and how I take whatever they say, or why didn't I ask for my needs? Why didn't I speak up for myself? Why did I allow myself to be treated a certain way? It could be, a bunch of different scenarios, but truly asking myself, like, how am I responsible for this? What is it? What is my part in it? Has always been like some really epiphany driven moments, right? And that other part where this is part of the spacious repair language, right? We can, this is the kind of connection that I want to share more of and be able to create, because we truly learn about ourselves when we are heightened. We really learn about ourselves when things are happening in the moment. So if there's an argument, I feel safe in the connection to allow the argument to continue. Let it continue to go out and play out, because that is how we learn about it. So um I know we haven't really been able to do this, but there's times when we're disconnected and I'm like, yeah, continue, let's get through the argument, let's go through it, because there are so many things here that we can learn about each other and learn for ourselves, and then we can be able to be like, I didn't even realize that's how I was coming off. I didn't realize that was the energy that I was giving. I didn't see, and of course, that's not the energy I want for the other person, right? So that is why I say, like, sometimes when my daughter is upset, I will intentionally say even more things, because then we really have a chance. to see
Mhm.
how we show up in relationships, how our blocks show up, how our limiting beliefs show up, how our wounds are, because we're all wounded children. So how does that play out in different scenarios? So especially the people who stay and the people who are there, they're the ones who end up getting the brunt of it. So it's an opportunity to look at that too, you know? So that's what I wanted to touch on.
On, but I do remember you said that for you, the episode it escalated and it went on for about 4 days. I remember that incident because it was close to your birthday, and you were
Yes.
like, I think I might just go. I'm just gonna eat a lot of things, and I was so confident. I was like, yeah, Lazina, go ahead, because I knew from my own experience, and when I like worked with other people, I knew she was gonna get sick and tired of looking at whatever it is she was eating. I think it was birthday cake, but like I want to eat my birthday cake 4 days in a row. I was like, go for it. And I only wanted to make this point because we talked so much about restarting, but I want to say for the people who have those escalation episodes, don't do so because I can tell you from the point of food, you are going to get sick of it at some point of time. I challenge you. There is no way you're going to come back after a week and tell me the way I ate on day one is the same way I ate on day seven. No way in hell. It's
Mm-mm.
not. You're gonna be so sick of it. You're gonna probably tell me, I don't want to see that for the next 5 days. So yes, like which food I can guarantee you there is a pause at the escalation, so it doesn't go on forever. So take hope in that.
Yes, I agree.
And yeah, I don't know about the relationship part. Maybe Lazina can give
Well,
you some insight on that.
I mean, when it comes to the relationship part, right? I mean, you can't continue the same behavior and the same pattern. It's not going to work. Like after how we've had many relationships that like after years and years of it, it's like, oh, this is not, this is just not going to work.
Yeah. Right. So with relationships here, either like we're gonna work together to change this, or we're gonna say goodbye to each other. So it's like there's a breaking point either way.
Yeah, that would be nice if we could have those conversations to say we're gonna say goodbye to each other instead of just like pulling the rug and going
Yes.
betrayal and all of these other
Ghosting.
other these other
Like,
traumatic stuff, right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that
But
was fun. But all right. But yeah, let's get back to
yeah,
how would
well,
repair look like instead of punishing yourself.
truly, like I think when it comes to the self repair, is being compassionate. Is looking at it with I can sit here and beat myself up so much about what I could have done, what I couldn't have done. But that was now in the past. In the here and the now, what is it that I can do? Right. And that's making a commitment. It's taking accountability. And I think the word accountability can really be harsh on the nervous system because it's like I'm feeling accountability, blame, responsibility. I don't want to, and then instantly your whole body is tensing up, right? I sometimes I don't even realize it. I'm just like thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm totally cool." But then when I really pay attention to my body, I'm like, "Wait, I'm tensing my shoulder, I'm tensing my jaw, I'm tensing my stomach." These are all our body really does keep a score. Our body really does tell us what's happening. We have to start developing that mind body heart coherence because it's one thing to understand something, it's another to feel it in your heart and experience it. It's another to say, oh my gosh, I felt abandoned for a very long time. And when I did, my entire my was like this. So now I need to make sure that I can do this internally. And there's times when it's still going like that. So it's being able to give ourselves the awareness and the experience of the healing of it as well as experiencing it out of our body. That's why people always say if you're going to do something, write it down, because you're thinking, you're feeling it, and you're writing it down. That is experientially putting it all together and having that connection. So the repair is really sitting with it, witnessing. That's an important part. Is saying, okay, I did this thing, I wasn't proud of it, and I'm doing it differently, and here's how I'm doing it differently. And if people are going to judge me for it, I am going to make sure that I am protecting my little girl, my nervous system, and not protection as a guard, but like loving and nurturing. Like, I forgive you. This is why forgiveness is so important too. So now I'm witnessing myself. I don't need to be witnessed by others. I don't need their validation. So that's something that I can do for me. And that's not punishing myself. And then when it comes to repair with others, I think that's one of the most beautiful experiences that we can have, because that is truly coming from compassion. That is really coming from acceptance and saying, I accept that you're a human being. I accept that you can make mistakes, and I accept that you can own it. Or being that person that says, I made a mistake and I'm owning it, but you are important to me. This connection is important to me. So what can I do to foster that? Even if, because sometimes people don't like jokes, and I'm a joking kind of person. So if they don't like jokes, I'm not stopping myself from being who I am. I'm just showing them that I love them. So I'm not gonna joke, but not because I'm not punish me doing it from a place of resentment is punishing them. But doing it from a place of like, I love this person and I understand that they were maybe picked on when they were younger, and they were bullied, or they had experiences where they don't like it and it's not safe for their nervous system. So I care about them. I want to make sure that I show up for them. It doesn't, and it's not always going to be perfect. Sometimes it's going to fall, but that's, again, that's in the creating safety with that relationship, showing up consistently, and just truly having the heart to heart connection with the love and compassion that brings that part in. And of course, it's the same thing with food. That's gentler, being gentle with ourselves. So that's what it looks like for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like I love that you brought up forgiveness, but essentially at the core it is compassion and forgiveness, right? Like, I mean, you explore the lens of relationships, and I have nothing more to add to that because you did it so well. But when it comes to food, I think a lot of us, like I always say, you can use the word repair with food, or you can use the word course correction. For me, I tend to use course correction, but I know some people like the word repair, so you can use that as well. Essentially, you still need to have compassion and forgiveness for whether you say course correction or repair. But what it comes down to it is that with food, a lot of times when we mess up or you go through that episode, you are so hard on yourself. Like we are all so hard on ourselves, right? But then I always think about it like in the context of if, say, Laziena called me up and said, she had an episode with food, would I be sitting there and taking notes and being like, wow, this is why you did that. This is how you did. You're terrible. You have no self-control. No, I'm 100% sure I would never say that. So then I catch myself saying, why am I saying that to myself? Why do we say
Yeah.
that to ourselves? We would never say that to a friend or a family member because that's not the way you correct anyone. I always say you cannot uh, enable or encourage healthy behavior by shaming someone. It's never
Hmm.
going to happen.
No.
It's so annoying when I'm on social media and I see people make videos about especially a lot of influencers. I feel like they have so much power with their platform, but they use it so negatively. And when they are taking videos of people who are not of the size that they think is right, and they're like, oh, look at this person. They have no self-respect for themselves. They just let themselves go, blah, 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 whatever you want to say. And that is not compassion. Putting them out there and shaming them for how they are is not compassion. You
Mm-mm.
have not encouraged them to be one bit healthy. You have just added to the shame and guilt that they probably already feel and have been going through every day of their life. So who knows how long. But what I realized is you need to give yourself that compassion. And if it's hard for you to do that for yourself, think about it as would I say this to someone I love? And most likely the answer is no. So don't say it to yourself. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
You can't give yourself compassion. At least give yourself uh, some encouragement or healthy reassurance, right? Like you can
Yeah.
start with that and then slowly move into compassion when it comes to food. But I think forgiveness is also the other part of it that is so important because I think with forgiveness, again, it's the same thing. And I know this is like for me, it used to be like forgiveness was really hard. Like, especially if someone that I care about deeply hurt me, it would take so long to like, the idea of forgiving them was like unimaginable
Yeah, because we
until
want to
I
punish. We want to
yeah, or
punish. We want to get
I was
revenge.
like punished.
We want to be right.
I wanted, yes, I was like, I want revenge. I never actually went through revenge but I like to fantasize about the revenge, but it never actually happened. Yes, I'm human. Of course, I wanted punishment. I wanted to see them punished. What I realized was someone recently, I was talking to them and they were like, you know what, forgiveness, it doesn't have to be where I say I forgive a person. It doesn't mean that it's magical and it just happens in the moment. But it's important to actually say you forgive the person because that means you are actually making a decision to do it. And as time wears on, every day you live with that decision and every day it gets easier. So, no, you haven't forgiven them in the moment. No, what they did to you wasn't right. But that does not mean that you need to hold what they did to you because that's their behavior. You have no control
Mhm.
over it. So why are you punishing yourself for something they did? That's silly.
Yeah.
So if I make, like for me, I'm practicing where I make the decision to forgive a person, even if I can't forgive them. But I know at some point I will forgive them. Like one day, and it's happened because a year ago, someone hurt me very deeply, and I made the decision to forgive them. And it sure as hell wasn't easy. I talked to Laziena about it a lot. But, this year when I thought about it, I was like, I don't wish that person ill. I genuinely hope they found peace. And that's when I realized, okay, I'm healing. And yes, I have, the forgiveness is there. And by forgiveness, I'm not saying keep the door open and welcome them back into your life and say, here's the three-course meal. Please sit down and have it with me. No, no. You can forgive a person and still let them, live their life. You live your life. You don't have to get back into relationship with them if this is a pattern that they're going to keep repeating because that just leads to self-abandonment. So when it comes to food, you need to forgive yourself because, like I said, with food, you're the decision maker. You're making the decision. So even if you feel like you can't forgive yourself in the moment, you should. And when I say should, do this. You literally just tell yourself that I'm going to eat the next meal normally. I'm not going to restrict. I'm not going to say I'm not going to eat because I overdid this. I'm not going to make any sort of compensation for the behavior I had with it. I'm just going to go about like things are normal. And
Yeah.
it will get better and better and it will get normal because punishing yourself and saying, now I'm not gonna eat for, I'm not gonna eat this thing for a week or I'm gonna starve or whatever. It's not helping. You're gonna have that episode of food all over again if you starve yourself or you get into that pattern. So if
Yeah.
you just practice it and go about it, say my next meal is gonna be normal and just go through it. It's okay. You don't have to forgive yourself. It's the action that you take.
Hmm.
So that's what I wanted to say when it comes to food. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I got. Do you have any else
Yeah.
that you have before you wrap up?
Yeah, I have a couple things to topple off of what you said. Like, you know how you were saying that if it's something that you wouldn't say to someone else, someone you care about, don't say it. Well, that's why for me reparenting is so important because I literally imagine my little girl with me all the time. So if I'm gonna say something negative to myself, that's who I'm talking to. And that's not, she don't deserve that. I don't deserve that, right? So it's like having that visualization of it. Sometimes I even think about like, okay, let's go now. I'm brushing my teeth. We're going to the car. I put on our seatbelt. It's like being in like actually like it may sound weird, but once you start doing it, that's what I did for a month when I started to I had to gain her trust. The bitch didn't trust me. She's not the bitch. I was she didn't trust me. Like I've been disappointed her my whole life. So why, so it was a connection I had to rebuild. So doing that visualization really has been essential. And there's something really beautiful about when we have capacity, then we're able to co-regulate together. That really just, I mean, that's a beautiful way that relationships have started to evolve. But we're now learning the relationship repair language helps teach us how to co-regulate in a way that repairs the connection. We're not just repeating the same arguments. We're not just going through the co-regulation technique and then it happens again. We're actually meeting each other's hearts and doing it from a such a beautiful place of curiosity, and that's so powerful. And it's because I've experienced it with my kids and some people that I care about. It's something that just feels incredible, and you don't know what it feels like because in the escalation moment, the decisions that are made to go pull away and to protect. So I just wanted to touch on that. And the other thing is that when it comes to I feel like once we are on a healing journey, whatever heals us, that's essentially what we create and we give to other people because this is something that's helpful. We've learned it and we believe in it and we know that it works. But oftentimes I feel that once people start talking about it, they tend to go into that shame based motivation, or that shame, that yeah, that shame based coaching. And which is why I understood at the beginning when you said you change your title, I don't necessarily identify with the coaching world the way I used to before. Because for me, it's easy to judge somebody else. It's easy to say, oh well, you're not thinking right, or your mindset is this way, or you're not doing inner child work, or you have to do this, or you need to do that, or this is how, the way it should be, right? And I know, like, sometimes the word should can be an attack on the nervous system too, right? But at the same time, I like to remember that I was once that person, and shame was not what I needed. I didn't need somebody else to tell me what to do and what how I'm doing it. What I needed was to understand why I was behaving the way that I was behaving. And so most of the time when we are looking at people online or different coaches and they're telling us what to do, that may not resonate with us, because my nervous system is going to need something completely different. So we need to find the people who are able to be there alongside us on the journey, that we can create safety with, that we can truly be ourselves and want to explore. Because being shamed into exploring, or being shamed into change, that just adds more accountability. And that's where I sometimes get my hangups, is because I'm stuck in my, well, what is my responsibility, what is my responsibility, what is my responsibility, and I'm not validating that experience was really shitty, or I didn't deserve that, and that was not okay, and it was all right for me to have that reaction. I'm not saying that it's something to be proud of, but it's also, that's the part of the self repair process too, you know. And the last thing before we wrap up is forgiveness is incredibly important. And I feel like there are people tell you you need to do stuff, but how do you do it is not necessarily available. What I've had to find out was there are these powerful exercises to really truly bring out forgiveness. So, a resentment letter, for example, is one, a deathbed letter is another. Writing a letter to that person, and also have that person's higher self reply. They're replying through you. So that way it's like bringing it in. But the most powerful forgiveness exercise that I've ever done is the one called 70 times 7, which is for 7 consecutive days, you are writing down all of the things that you need to forgive that person for. And it can start off with blame. It can start off with, I forgive you for being da 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 da. I forgive you for blah blah blah, right? I forgive you for being a giant asshole, whatever that case is. But essentially, that forgiveness for 7 days, you're allowing yourself to look at what you really hate about that person, but also you're looking and seeing, like, well, I'm not saying hate, what the hurt was, right? But also, how are you, me, showing up that way too? Because that's where the forgiveness is. Now I need to forgive myself for that, and in forgiving myself for that same behavior that's being mirrored back to me, or ways that I have also showed up that way, that is where the true forgiveness is. It breaks down so many barriers. So I definitely wanted to touch up on that. And that is the end of my spiel. Do you have anything before I wrap this up?
No, but yeah, I definitely the exercises that you shared are helpful. I'm especially curious to try the deathbed one,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm actually gonna do that. I'll let you know how it goes. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was interesting. I never heard of that one. But I feel like I've done something similar to it. I just didn't know it had a name like the deathbed letter.
Isn't it
But
crazy when you name something, then it's like, oh, your whole body is like, oh my gosh.
well, yeah, exactly. For me, it was more of a "you're dead to me" kind of letter. But that was like a very good release. By the way,
Those
guys,
are
if you
needed.
do any of these, yeah, if you do these letters, just know that you aren't supposed to post them or send them to the person. They're just for you. So, like, we don't want you to come and be like, "Hey, you said we can send them." So, disclaimer, they are for you. They are not to be sent. It's just for you to release. And the 70 by 70, I remember you sharing that with me. So yeah, I think I definitely, and oh yeah, the dynamic, the victim dynamic. I was trying to remember what did Laziena say, and I want to touch back on. That is extremely powerful for nervous system regulation because I know you said the word accountability is like not so great for a lot of people to hear, and it's hard for them. And I love that word. Like I love it but I can hear it better when I'm regulated. When I'm dysregulated, maybe not so much.
Exactly.
But when I'm regulated, yeah, I want to do accountability. I want to see how I would being the persecutor, how I was playing the victim, how this person was showing up. It's good stuff. And you should definitely read the book, guys, if you haven't. I think it's called
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm bad with names, but
The
we'll drop it in the
empowerment
show
habit.
notes. Yes, thank you. All right. So I think we're good to go. We hope you uh, gotten a lot of valuable knowledge. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this episode. And on this note, we're going to land the plane, and Lazina's going to take us through.
Yeah, I mean, Amanda has a quiz for you to understand your food eating habits, right?
Yeah, it's called the Food Behavior Pattern Quiz. I renamed it. That's why I had to look at what I
Oh,
was
okay.
saying.
The food behavior and pattern quiz. I think it's very important for us to be able to name what we need or what our experiences are, which is exactly why my quiz is designed for you to understand what your emotional needs are, so that really giving a name to what your nervous system needs whenever you are in conflict or whenever things get difficult, when emotions rise, when you're dysregulated, and that way you can repair with yourself or repair with others. And so you can always go to my website laziena.com for that. And Amanda will put her website as well. We'll put all of this in our show notes. I think it's cool to say show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, share it, send it to a friend. We really appreciate sharing our knowledge with you guys and our experiences. And I think these are valuable conversations that we could be having around the dinner table or any table or anywhere. And it's really important for us to, like, do it differently. Just remember, one my core thing that Amanda and I always agree on is that you were really never broken. It's just a matter of discovering who we truly are. And on that note, we will see you on the next episode.
Bye, guys. Take care.